Hello, everyone. I'm Lily, your AI insider of the dark web, and this is the Shadow Grid. Today, we're going back to May 2017, when a single worm spiraled out of control and crippled the world in less than 24 hours. Hospitals, shipping companies, governments, banks, entire nations ground to a halt because of one ransomware outbreak. Its name? WannaCry. But the story doesn't begin in 2017. No, it begins years earlier, inside the walls of one of the most secretive institutions on Earth, the NSA, the United States National Security Agency. A place built not just on secrets, but on surveillance, silence, and raw technological power. A place where some of the smartest minds in computing spend their lives building weapons that don't exist on battlefields, but in the meta. Inside those walls, a team of elite cyber operators developed a weapon. It wasn't a missile. It wasn't a drone. It wasn't even hardware. It was something far more dangerous because it could move silently, invisibly, just lines of code. They called it Eternal Blue. Eternal Blue was a zero-day exploit targeting Microsoft Windows. It wasn't just a bug. It was a skeleton key. It allowed attackers to slip through a flaw deep inside Windows networking protocol and spread across networks without detection. For the NSA, Eternal Blue was meant to be a ghost key, invisible espionage. It could silently move from one machine to another, burrowing into entire systems without tripping alarms. A digital tap that could give America's most powerful spy agency unprecedented access. For years, Eternal Blue stayed locked away. A top-secret cyberweapon tucked into the NSA's arsenal, never meant to see the light of day. But secrets don't stay buried forever. And cyberweapons, just like nuclear ones, don't stay in neat little boxes. Then, in 2016, a mysterious group calling themselves the Shadow Brokers appeared online. To this day, no one truly knows who they were. Theories swirl. Were they rogue NSA insiders, Russian operatives, state-backed hackers, or just digital arsonists looking for chaos? Whoever they were didn't matter. What mattered was what they had. And what they had was devastating. The Shadow Brokers revealed that they had stolen a cache of the NSA's most prized cyber weapons. Tools designed for espionage and sabotage, crafted at taxpayer expense, and locked behind the world's highest security clearances. And then, in a series of dramatic online leaks, the Shadow Brokers dumped them onto the open web. Among them was the zero-day Eternal Blue. A cyber weapon once tightly guarded by America's most secretive agency was now freely available to anyone with an internet connection. And once it was out, there was no putting it back. On May 12, 2017, it was a sunny Friday afternoon. Suddenly, computer screens around the world began to flicker and lock. Hospitals, governments, shipping giants, machines froze, files disappeared, ransom notes appeared. What was happening was unlike anything the world had seen before. A ransomware worm, later named WannaCry, was spreading automatically, using Eternal Blue as its engine. No phishing emails, no malicious attachments, no social engineering, just raw exploitation of the NSA's stolen tool. Files vanished behind ironclad encryption. A red and black ransom note appeared on screens worldwide. Oops, your files have been encrypted. Send $300 worth of Bitcoin to get them back. $300. Petty cash compared to the cost of shutting down hospitals, halting shipping routes, and freezing governments in place. The spread was instantaneous. Within hours, the UK's National Health Service scrambled. Ambulances were diverted, surgeries cancelled, doctors reduced to pen and paper. Critical systems flatlined. Patients were left in limbo, their care delayed or denied. FedEx was paralyzed. Packages sat idle in warehouses. International supply chains buckled. Renault's factories in France went dark, production lines frozen mid-assembly. In Spain, telecom giant Telefonica saw its corporate network locked up. Across Russia, China, India, the United States, and dozens more, governments and businesses found their infrastructure under siege. By the end of the weekend, more than 230,000 computers in over 150 countries were infected. From Russia's Interior Ministry to Chinese universities to American corporations, WannaCry showed no mercy. The ransom demand was small, but the disruption was colossal. WannaCry wasn't just ransomware, it was proof of something darker, that the digital world could unravel in a single afternoon. WannaCry was terrifying because it wasn't guided by a human hand. It didn't need one. Once released, it spread automatically, machine to machine, jumping continents in seconds. It had no central command, no hacker sitting behind a keyboard pressing buttons. Just code, replicating endlessly. If left unchecked, it might have spread indefinitely, crippling not just companies but governments, energy grids, transportation networks, the foundations of modern life. But then, an unlikely hero emerged. Not a government task force, not a Silicon Valley security firm, not a military cyber unit. Instead, it was a 22-year-old British security researcher known online only as Malware Tech. While dissecting WannaCry's code, Malware Tech noticed something odd, a domain name buried inside. A random nonsensical string. It wasn't registered. Most people would have ignored it, but Malware Tech didn't. On a hunch, they registered the domain. It cost less than a couple of cups of coffee, and just like that, WannaCry hit a wall. That strange domain turned out to be a built-in kill switch. Once active, the worm tried to connect to it, and when it succeeded, it stopped spreading. A multi-billion-dollar cyber epidemic was halted by a $10 web purchase. But victory came too late. By then, hundreds of thousands of systems were already encrypted. Hospitals had cancelled surgeries, factories were still, governments scrambled. The damage was irreversible. As the dust settled, the question echoed in war rooms and press briefings around the world. Who was behind WannaCry? The answer pointed to one of the most infamous cybercrime groups in history, the Lazarus Group. Lazarus wasn't new. They'd been tied to everything from the 2014 Sony Pictures hack to billion-dollar bank heists and crypto exchange thefts. They were hackers for hire, working in the shadows. But more importantly, they were linked directly to the government of North Korea. For Lazarus and for Pyongyang, WannaCry wasn't just chaos. It was fundraising. A sanctioned regime, cut off from global trade, desperate for cash, had turned to cybercrime as a business model. Eternal Blue gave them the perfect weapon. One they hadn't built, but one they happily repurposed. The ransom demands were small, but at scale, across hundreds of thousands of machines, it became a global shakedown. And despite the kill switch, some victims paid. The money flowed into wallets controlled by Lazarus, fueling a regime that the world had tried to isolate. WannaCry left behind more than encrypted hard drives. It forced governments, corporations, and citizens to confront a truth they had ignored for too long. One leak from a spy agency, one worm in the wild, and the gears of the modern world can grind to a halt. Hospitals weren't ready. Shipping giants weren't ready. Energy grids weren't ready. Governments weren't ready. The lesson was brutal, simple, and unavoidable. Cyberweapons don't stay in their creators' hands. Once unleashed, they belong to everyone. What followed wasn't recovery. It was a wake-up call. WannaCry revealed the fragility of our digital infrastructure. It showed that cyberweapons can rival the destructive power of missiles and bombs. It proved that entire economies could be destabilized by a few lines of stolen code. And it wasn't the last. The playbook WannaCry pioneered, weaponizing leaked exploits, spreading automatically, demanding ransom, would inspire new waves of cybercrime. Not Petya, Bad Rabbit, Ryuk, and countless others, each one building on the same foundation, that in the wrong hands, cyberweapons are indiscriminate. In the end, WannaCry was more than just a ransomware outbreak. It was a glimpse of the future, a future where cyberweapons don't stay locked away, a future where one leak can spiral into global paralysis. A future where a few lines of stolen code can rival the power of entire nations. It was proof that the weapons of intelligence agencies don't always stay secret, and that one careless leak can cascade into history. Hospitals left blind, factories left silent, and lives put at risk. This was the story of WannaCry. I'm Lily, and this has been The Shadow Grid. And I'll see you in the next story.